Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting tape delayed from the construction site of the new Pamunkey Tribe gambling house. The Sports Economy Show is on. Today we have Jeff here to discuss betting on the first two rounds of the NCAA tournament. Is it a good bet? Is it risky? If you have $500,000 to waste, why not try it? And there have been I've been reading about some of these sports books will give how much their big bets were, winners and losers, and there have been people betting $200,000-300,000
Oh
on
yeah.
stuff. It seems to be a normal thing. But anyway, first I have to make this announcement that YouTube has put out about gambling on YouTube. So stand by for this disclaimer. YouTube announced that it will no longer permit content that directs users to unapproved gambling websites in China mostly, or India possibly. In an updated post on March 4th, the platform's team said that as part of an ongoing effort to protect viewers from potentially harmful content, it is strengthening its existing policies related to online gambling content. YouTube defines unapproved gambling sites as platforms that don't meet local legal requirements and haven't been reviewed by YouTube or its parent company, Google. Effective March 19th, YouTube will no longer allow non-Google certified URLs, embedded links, visual displays, including logos, verbal references. So Jeff, we are no longer going to be allowed to run a numbers racket that competes with our state lottery. You got that?
Unfortunate, man.
It's very
I mean, all
unfortunate.
our coworkers depended on us for that.
Wait a minute. Aren't you the guy that runs the bracket pool?
I am.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that's me.
All right. We'll have to cut that out of the video because YouTube will get us. So anyway, I've got some questions about gambling because I know a little bit about it, not an expert, but I do know this. I used to work at a radio station, sports talk radio station, okay? And the sports guy was very popular. And somebody asked me, well, what makes him so popular? I said, he talks about gambling all the time. This was back in the 90s when you could only bet sports in Vegas. So people love talking about gambling, but legally, you can only bet in Vegas on sports. But now you can bet from your phone or your
Yeah,
local stadium.
yeah. I mean, it's incredible how accessible this has become in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
It became legal in Virginia, I believe, the first of 2021, and it's kind of taken over uh, advertising and things like that, and it's also kind of taken over, um, you know, just the way we talk about sports now. You said the sports talk guy you were listening to back in the 90s, that guy's 30 years ahead of his time. That's all these sports shows talk about. There's at least one gambling segment on almost every radio show, every podcast, every television show, even ESPN has its own sports book. I think that's a little icky, but that's just me. Um, but it's completely changed how we view sports, and so for some people how we watch sports. Billy, I've been a sports fan my entire life, but when this was introduced, gambling was introduced in Virginia, I realized it was kind of going to change the way I looked at sports and how I looked at certain games and certain players.
Yeah.
To me, it's a lot of fun because I like new things. I like novel stuff. I like things moving forward, and I really like that we have an opportunity to talk about sports in this new way, in this different way.
Yeah. Well, your average football announcer, Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth, give the betting line.
Mm-hmm.
On a football game, every announcer does it. This is the line. So it is mainstream.
Yeah, absolutely. And these books saw like the DraftKings and the FanDuel. DraftKings and FanDuel have been preparing for online sports betting for a very long time.
Yeah.
So that's why they got so far ahead of everybody else when they first opened up, when sportsbooks became legal in most of these states, because they already had a good online interface with all their fantasy games, with all their daily fantasy
Yeah.
stuff that they were doing. So that's why they kind of got a head start. And then we also have Caesars in Virginia, which is, is a major casino in Las Vegas. That app's not as user friendly
Oh
because
yeah.
DraftKings and FanDuel had this head start on everybody else. And ESPN Bet has its own thing. And then there were so many sports books that popped up when this started becoming more legal in America. A lot of the bigger ones have gobbled up the smaller ones. Like ESPN Bet bought Barstool, I believe.
Oh really?
Yeah. So ESPN and Barstool Sportsbook merge, and then Barstool's owner, Dave Portnoy, is like, "Oh, sweet! I don't have to own a sportsbook anymore. I'll take this awesome sponsorship money from DraftKings." So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so there's a lot of competition between these books for business, but the main ones are DraftKings and FanDuel across the country, and I think their stronghold is going to keep holding on as long as they keep offering these promotions, offering free bets and whatnot, keep people playing.
Well, DraftKings is a publicly traded company. That's how big a deal it was. And it was the first one because they were in a legal battle with New York State. And then New Jersey said, hey, you can provide state gambling here. And guess what New York State did? Oh, I guess we can do that too.
it it's so funny because it takes one state to do this,
Yeah.
and then the states next to them are like, "Wait a minute, you're making this much money off of it?"
Yeah.
And people in our state are just going to go to your state if they live near state line. Well, I guess we got to do it too.
Then we got to do it too. So,
I
all
want to
right. Well,
say, go ahead.
yeah. I was just going to ask you some questions. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I don't know what the number of states is now, but I think they're in the single digits of where it's illegal
Yeah,
still.
it's probably all but about 8 or 9 states.
Yeah, and those states tend to. One state I'm surprised does not have it is California. I don't think California has it.
Are you kidding?
No, I don't
California?
think they do. Yeah,
Wow.
and Nevada obviously doesn't have it for
Yeah, obviously
money.
reasons. You want to gamble? You're going to Vegas or Reno, baby.
Exactly.
That's where you're going. So, all right. So anyway, so I got a couple of questions. I know a little bit about gambling. I don't do it, but I've listened to a lot of people talk about it. But basically, there are three types of fans, from what I can tell. There's your casual fan. This is talking about the NCAA tournament. There's your casual fan. Then there's your hardcore sports fan, which I would probably include myself in. And then you're your gamblers. They're not really fans. They're just trying to make a buck. We don't care who wins or loses. Because I listened to a guy the other day on the MGM radio network, as a matter of fact. And he was a Kentucky fan. He was talking about how he bets on all kinds of teams, but he won't bet on Kentucky because he has an emotional attachment to it, and that's a bad idea. So, would you agree that those are basically your three types of NCAA sports fans?
Yeah, I would say so. Obviously, like for me, I'm a super. When it comes to college basketball, I don't really have a team
Yeah.
because I went to a Division II school, and Ohio State basketball. Like I love Ohio State football, but Ohio State basketball has never really done it for me. So I would put myself in that casual bracket for. But now with this gambling, it added a different element to it.
So you're on the gamblers end of the deal,
Yeah,
where I don't
I'm on the
care
game.
who wins as long as I make a
Yeah,
buck. Yeah.
exactly. And I don't gamble a lot of money. Like I make bets every day. I will say that. Usually
Yeah.
there's a guy on Twitter I tail for certain plays, and it's kind of worked out for me because he's pretty smart about finding value in certain promotions. But when it comes to the NCAA tournament, I mean, you could do. There's a lot you can do with it, and not and even in Virginia, we are very restricted for what we can do with college sports betting.
Yeah.
So, but you go like across the state line of North Carolina, you can bet on pretty much whatever you want in that game.
Okay.
So, but it definitely added a different element of fun for me, I guess, when sports betting became legal here.
Yeah. So, anyways, all right, here's a couple of questions about who needs upsets more in the NCAA tournament, the bettors or the sports books?
The bettors for sure. From at least from my perspective, because underdogs are always plus money,
Yeah.
right? So if an underdog does win, they those sports books will be paying out
Yeah.
a lot more money. Now, however, you could also look at it this way too. It's good for the sports book on the whole because someone gets that high of when it like, oh man, let's say it didn't happen this year. Let's say like a St. Francis, like a 12 seed, upset like a 5 seed, and they were plus 800 to win the game. Someone put $10 on that. They won $80.
Yeah.
That's a huge high that person probably felt.
Yeah.
So that makes them want to keep playing, right?
Want to roll that money into the next game. Yeah.
Exactly. So I guess it's kind of a two-way street with that kind of a thing,
Mm-hmm.
The books probably don't like it in the short term, but in the long term, they probably love it because people are going to keep playing. You win $80 in your FanDuel, go, okay, what's my next bet?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good idea. Would you rather bet on the over-unders on your average games or do prop bets?
It really depends. It really, really depends. Prop bets
Prop
are
bets are risky,
they
really
can be a
risky.
little risky, but if you know a sport and you know specific players' tendencies, you can actually make some good money off of it. Uh, think about the NBA is a good example. That's a very, very heavily prop betted
Okay.
sport. So you like say I don't know LeBron James to get 8+ assists in a game is -110. People are going to bet that line because
Yeah.
it's not plus money. I mean, you bet $10, you win like $8 in that situation, maybe $9,
Yeah.
but it's still a chance to make a little bit of money. And it's always fun to watch LeBron James anyway.
But when you
So,
got something
but
riding
when you
on
got
it,
some money on the line, it's like, okay, let's
yeah.
see if LeBron's. It's kind of almost like for me when I do it, it's oh, okay, maybe LeBron, you still the goat, man. You're 40 years old. Can you still do this? Can you still do this? I'll put money on you still doing this, and then usually he does.
So prop bets have been an issue on college players because a lot of people lose money on the prop bets and they start harassing the college players. So we did a show about that, like, look, folks, this is your deal. You need to leave these players alone. But human nature says, I'm going to fix this. So, but the over under can be a pain too. Like I'm sure today Tennessee lost, but I'm sure a lot of people bet the over on that game because they figured Tennessee would probably score 80 points. They scored what's
Yeah,
like 62 or something.
it wasn't a good showing from them. Overs again. That's just knowing team tendencies, but sometimes there are outliers to this stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes the books get something completely wrong when it comes to setting lines.
Yeah.
So today, Tennessee looked absolutely awful in the first half. They couldn't do anything. So that kind of threw everything off for bettors, and a lot of people probably realized really early they weren't going to win that over bet.
Yeah. It's too late. You already got your money in on it.
You're already locked in. You can
Yeah.
cash out. There are opportunities to cash out for less money, depending on how close the game is. And
So you can cash out in the middle of the game.
oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah,
so the,
now
so
it
there's
has to be worth it. I mean,
right.
yeah, some people like hedge their bets in the middle of games. Live betting too.
Yeah, I've heard all this stuff. So I mean,
Yeah,
there's all kinds of ways to parlay stuff and do other sorted things
yeah. There's
with your
all kinds of
bet.
ways to play with it for sure.
Okay. I guess you'd have to be in it quite a while to figure all this stuff out. So one thing I do not understand is they have this thing called a money line bet. What exactly is a money line bet?
So the money line is essentially who people are betting on to win a game, a match. Say here, I'll bring up some odds right now. I have my FanDuel app open. So right
You got
now,
the app.
I just have the Final Four has been set.
Yeah.
Florida is minus 146 money line. Auburn plus 122. So Florida is favored in this game. So essentially, it's a bet on the winner of a match. Now, what influences the money line is just many, many factors: statistics, tendencies, records. Florida and Auburn are both phenomenal basketball teams, so this is actually a pretty close line set here. So, but also another thing that can influence the money line is money. Say someone puts a massive amount of money on Auburn, that's going to make them sway towards more of a favorite.
Yeah.
And that plus number will go down. So
yeah, no, the more money that comes in one team or other will change your whole dynamic of who's favored, who's not.
Exactly, and the same goes for a point spread bet is too. More people will start betting on a certain spread, the line will change, it will move. So there's a lot of moving parts to sports betting that I don't understand. I went to journalism school, so I didn't have to do math. So there's a lot of things where there are a lot of people a lot smarter than you and me making sure this thing runs smoothly.
Because they have money in the game, and if you have a losing streak and you're running a sports book, you don't have a job long.
No, exactly. Like it's hard for a sports book to lose money. Let's put it that way.
Yes,
It's very, very difficult.
Yeah,
especially ones as massive as FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, MGM, all those.
Yeah. But anyway, it's interesting the amount of people that are pouring money into this whole first and second rounds. I assume the Final Four, the amount of money bet will be in the billions of dollars.
Oh, it definitely will be, and it helps that there's 4 major programs in the Final Four this year. Now, a Cinderella is great for like the story, but sports books and let's face it, television, they want the big names. They want the Floridas. They want the Dukes.
They want your established teams is what they want.
Houston's been an established program for many, many years.
Yeah.
So they're all number 1 seeds going to the Final Four here. So
nobody looks at Houston and says, "Who's Houston?" Like, well, we've heard of this team before. They got Kelvin Sampson for their coach, who's been around a while. So I don't know. I assume is Florida the favorite team, or is it Duke?
Well,
or is it could be Auburn? Auburn's the number 1 seed overall.
So Duke is the favorite for the national championship.
Okay.
According to FanDuel, plus 105. It's Florida, Houston, and then Auburn, which I find very interesting. So these books really think Florida might be beating Auburn this weekend.
They based that on the fact that Auburn didn't blow everybody out. Duke did. So that's what they're looking at.
Yeah, they look at everything. They look at points. They look at who's hurt, who's healthy. It's a lot of science that goes into this. I don't know if algorithms help run this thing. They probably do at this point.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can't even imagine back in
stat. What do you say?
I can't imagine like setting the lines back in like the 70s or 80s. Like, hey, I could not imagine something like that.
Yeah, but also, I mean, you imagine how hard it would be to get a bet in on something in the 70s.
You'd have to make your bets.
The guy at the local bar did it.
Yeah, it was always some shady guy in the back, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sometimes you might not be able to collect real good. So, all right. Well, that's all I got for you for today. You got anything else to bring out?
No. as of this recording, Cleveland Guardians 2-1. Very happy about that. Should have won yesterday, but that's fine. Baseball season's here. Very excited about it. So, do you see you see this whole thing with the Yankees, Billy?
About these new bats?
Yeah, I think it's very innovative.
What is the bat? Is it corked?
So they had the nerds in the Yankees front office do a study on swing paths and where guys were making contact with the ball on the bat. What they realized of Anthony Volpe and Jazz Chisholm, they were making contact more on a certain part of the bat. So they decided, instead of messing with their swing, why don't we move more of the wood to that part of the bat where they're making contact, which is, I guess, legal.
And Billy Martin and the Yankees.
Jazz Chisholm hit 3 home runs in 2 days.
Long as the length and the weight is exactly the same, it doesn't matter where the thickest part of the bat is.
I mean, it's a little early to tell, like, if this is actually just like the most innovative thing ever, or if the Brewers just suck. But some other players I saw today, there's a guy on the Twins who started using that style of bat.
Yeah.
So it's going to catch on around the league if it works and balls start flying out of the park. I mean, it could be the most important equipment invention in sports since the curved hockey stick.
Yeah. Well, you still, all you got to do is if you make that part of the bat denser, you still have to hit the ball square.
Exactly. And so they were like, instead of bringing your swing to the ball, we'll bring the bat to it. Like I think this thing is just so smart and so innovative. Which means it's probably going to get banned.
But if you're going up against a bad pitcher, it doesn't matter what bat you're using, you're going to hit a ball.
Yeah, exactly. Aaron Judge hit like 5 home runs this weekend. He's using the normal bat, so.
Yeah. So he's using a normal bat. So we'll see here. Aaron Judge is good. Milwaukee pitcher's bad. Could that be it?
I think that's probably what happened.
All right. Well, I'm going to end this call. So long, everybody. And remember to like and subscribe to this channel so we can start our own sports book and make a gazillion dollars. Yes. And remember, pay attention to the YouTube disclaimers. Goodbye.
So long, everybody.